Hello, everyone. In this session, I will guide you through the key stages of a migration activity, from the overview to the final demonstration. Let's understand the plan for this session. We will perform resource setup data migration through an ETL script. The main goal of this activity is to migrate resource setup data from the source data template to the Onfinity ERP application. Before we begin, a few things must be in place. The tenant and organization configuration must be completed. A migration user, specifically named an import user, must be created. The tenant must be set up and configured correctly. For further details, you can watch the Talend setup and data template overview video. Let's understand the resource setup. This is where you configure resource types, resources, and their associated products within the field service management system. Resource types define the roles and availability of people, such as technicians or engineers. The resources are the individuals who perform service tasks and use the system through a mobile application. Each resource can be linked to multiple products that reflect the services they provide, and this allows the system to determine the correct charges for the customer during a task. The resource setup is located under the service maintenance setup screen, and the data template for this is the resource setup template. The screen name for this is the service maintenance setup. Let's begin by reviewing the source template prepared for the resource setup migration. This resource setup source template will be used to populate data into the resource-related tabs in the application. Now, as we open the template, you will see it includes an instruction worksheet to guide you on how to correctly fill the data following all the rules. Next, there is the data worksheet where the actual records are present, followed by a worksheet for lists of values. From this worksheet, the drop-down values are provided. There is also a well region trigger button that checks for gaps or issues in the data. This button validates multiple conditions like mandatory fields, duplicate fields, incorrect drop-down values, and so on. Now let me show you the corresponding resource setup in the application. I will log in using the application link and then search for the Service Maintenance Setup screen. As you have seen, this screen contains multiple tabs. Let's go to the Resource Data tab. The first one we will look at is the Resource Type tab. As you can see, there are no records in the Resource Type tab, and the data in the template will be migrated to the fields on this tab. Similarly, there is no data present for the Resource tab, so the data from the respective columns in the template will be migrated to these tab fields. Now let's go back to the template and use the Validation Trigger button to validate the data. You can see this template also has some optional worksheets, such as Mobile Warehouse and Resource Product. This means if you have the data, you can provide it, or you can leave it blank. Let's now run the trigger button to validate the data. As the message indicates, the resource type worksheet data validation has been completed. Some issues were found. Please address the gap and try again. Let's go to the resource type worksheet. As you can see, we have marked the name as a unique identifier. This means it cannot contain duplicate values. This is why it is highlighted in light red. For example, the time slot field is marked red because if the value is Y, then the slot start and slot end values are mandatory. The value is Y in time slot, but the slot end value is blank, which is why it is highlighted in red. Then we have the checkbox column, which should only contain a Y or a north value. Since the value does not represent a Y or a north, it is highlighted in orange. We will now resolve these issues. Let's read the message on the button. As the message indicates, the resource type worksheet data validation has been completed and no issues were found. Now we will run the validation for the resource worksheet. As the message indicates, the validation for this worksheet has also been completed. Some issues were found. Please address the gaps and try again on the resource worksheet. As you can see, the source contact field is highlighted in a slight red. This is to convey that only one user can be assigned to a resource at a time. The value should be unique for each resource name. This is why it is highlighted in light red, as it contains duplicate values. For example, a value like 2,005,112 is already assigned to a resource, so it cannot be assigned to another. Next, you can see the reference field values. These values are taken from the resource type source worksheet, and since SPL store container 2 is not present in this worksheet, it is highlighted as orange. The same issue is with the mobile warehouse field. The value field service administrator is not present in the mobile warehouse worksheet, which is why it is also highlighted as orange. Then, we have a field that contains a drop-down value. This value does not represent the drop-down options, which is why it is highlighted as orange. In addition, these mandatory fields are highlighted as red because they contain blank values. We will now resolve these gaps and then read the message on the button. As the message indicates, the resource worksheet data validation is completed and no issues were found. Now, we will check where this file is placed for the ETL migration process. We need to go to the C drive folder, then the training session folder, the Talend folder, the project folder, the source folder, and finally, the module folder. Our resource setup folder is present here, under the source folder. This is the monitored folder, where the Talend job picks up the resource setup template for migration. Now, we will start the migration process with the Talend tool. Talend is an ETL tool used to migrate data from the source template to the target table. Inside Talend, we have a job design where multiple data object folders are present with their respective jobs. As you can see, we are in the resource setup folder. We will first run the resource type staging job and then its main job. This same process will be followed for the resource data as well. Let's now start the data migration. The staging job picks up the data from the source template, applies basic transformations, and loads it into a staging table. Now, let's run the staging job. As you can see, data has been migrated to the staging table. We will now run the main job. The main job performs final transformations, handles errors, and loads valid records into the target table. So let's run the main job. As you can see, the data has been migrated to the resource target. Similarly, we can migrate the data for the other tabs also. If an error occurs, the Talend tool generates an error file in the same folder. This file lists all failed records along with the reason, which helps with a quick resolution and reprocessing. Let's now go to the error folder. This is the error folder where the error file is present. We will now open the error file to see if any errors are there. As you can see, there are no errors present in the resource type error file. This means the data has been migrated completely. Now, we will switch back to the application to see the newly migrated records for the resource type and resource. Let's log into the application. We are now in the service maintenance setup screen. As you can see, some records have been migrated here. Let's verify this in the template. Now, we can see that the data present in the template has been migrated to the respective fields. Let's now see the resource tab data. The resource data has also been migrated. This confirms that the resource setup migration has been completed and that the data has been correctly mapped. That concludes the resource setup migration. Thank you for attending.